The Planet Green Trees Show.
Making money
Biden
and making
helped
bad
to
law.
perpetuate the war on drugs.
False equivalence. You've had 3 years of Trump and you had 50 years of Biden. How dare that's a ridiculous comparison, man.
Rick, it's
ridiculous.
Well, the other thing is that Biden is more likely to be able to move in a different direction for us substantially
because he has a 50-year history of not, and Donald Trump has no. Listen, I'm not advocating for Donald Trump.
No, not because he has a 50-year history. It's not because the circumstances right now dictate that he would do this. He's going to be surrounded by people that want to do that.
The melding of his campaign and the Sanders campaign. We've seen articles talking about how soft they are on the cannabis issue now.
No, I saw articles. I saw articles that he. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Trump gave us Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr. That guy can fuck off.
Wait a second. Trump's administration most recently did a couple things. They are getting information from weed maps.
Sure, I saw that.
Licensed companies, so they
Sure.
can look into that activity. And Barr took advantage of the
COVID
scenario
to investigate.
They rolled back the Cole memos. Come on.
Admitted that he doesn't like it. That's
Okay.
why he's attacking it.
Okay.
Come on, they've obstructed the whole time.
All right, Rick, if we're going to compare, that's fine. Show me the damage from that. What actually happened? We heard these things, nothing's happened. But we have Joe Biden locking people up for the marijuana for 50 years.
Wait a second. You're saying Joe Biden locking people up as if he held the keys, as he was the jailer chuckling as he actually turned the key. He's actually one person of a Congress. Do you know how many House of Representatives people there are, Michael? To assign the entire responsibility onto one person is really disingenuous.
He sponsored the bills. He sponsored the bills. I know, we're just talking about as it relates to. Listen, we have all taken the position that the most important issue politically that they are interested in is cannabis issue, right? I mean, I could call out some recordings of this from each of you, so don't deny it, okay? So if cannabis is the most important.
I didn't hear what you said. What was that
cannabis
statement?
is normally the most important driving issue politically for us.
Correct. We all probably are.
But this is a different level of shit going on right now. That's kind of my point.
I'm not talking about the whole picture and me being criticized.
Why wouldn't you talk about the whole picture? Why would you just tunnel vision this whole thing? It doesn't make sense.
That's part of the discussion in terms of why tolerate Biden, even though we know that he's got such an incredibly horrible.
Rick,
there's a pile of shit and there's a pile of good. Got a big pile of shit, but he's got some good too. So we got to go with what's better.
Rick, I want to answer your question because you're making it seem like what I'm saying or what I'm suggesting is not true or is unfair. This show has been said that we talk about politics regarding cannabis, right? So my question about, I would normally, if cannabis is the main issue, and I'm only asking a question about cannabis. I mean, there have been endorsements from various parties on how are you on the green issue? Not caring about one other thing.
Right.
Endorsing Republicans or Democrats if they are favorable to it. This is not a new thing. It's a fair assessment of looking at two different candidates. Yeah. And what I'm saying to you is what we know in the world of Joe Biden's involvement in government.
Head of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Head of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Even today, saying that he has no remorse about the crime bill, which led to the mass incarceration of African Americans disproportionately. And I'm telling you that also is because of his stance on cannabis and not recognizing it today and looking back at his catalog of legislation that he was involved with compared to Trump. Terrible. The worst. 3 years executive craziness. I'm not saying the grand scheme, but Trump hasn't an opportunity to effectuate cannabis policy yet.
Oh, that's disingenuous. Trump hasn't had a chance to effectuate cannabis policies. 3 years as the president.
Rick's right. He's right. Swipe of a pen. Swipe of a pen. He could have fixed the whole damn thing. Swipe of a pen.
He certainly could have. He had plenty of opportunity to do it.
Okay.
There was expectation by the cannabis community in 2016 he was going to do it.
But you know what?
He didn't.
Trump does not have the record that Joe Biden
does. That's what I'm saying.
Joe Biden has been an aggressor the entire fucking span of his career.
And he still is after 50 years and doesn't look back on his work and say, you know what? I probably should have released that other song instead of that song because that's my catalog is not good for the quote unquote liberal movement. Progressives are not. He is not.
He's not a progressive. He's not. But I think that's. I mean,
and listen, I understand. I'm
progressive, but he's the only
Listen, I'm saying.
I mean, he's not Trump. I get it.
We're not debating international policy. We're not debating the Middle East. We're not debating the immigration. We're just talking about cannabis and the performance. Like if we had to put
he was back in the 80s talking that he wanted to punish every single drug user, and I mean, yeah, I'm sure his stance has probably evolved over time, but.
Absolutely evolved over time. Don't say probably.
Well, hold on.
Well, no, I don't, because I mean here.
Then you haven't been reading any of the recent stuff.
Well, hold on.
I said, this melding of the Sanders campaign and the Biden campaign. Take a look at the more recent statements. I know y'all are focused on something that happened 30 years ago, and that's valid. But you're not talking about the entire picture if you're not looking at the most recent statements from his campaign.
Listen, when I heard Joe Biden say "shoot him in the leg" instead of the head. I knew he had a problem. I know when his legislation.
Still 30 years ago, though, right?
This is 2 weeks ago. 2 fucking weeks ago. He had a mascot in a church that he pulled down and said, "Geez, the answer's simple. Shoot him in the leg." This is 2 weeks ago. He was asked, "Do you have any regrets at all about the crime bill that resulted in mass incarceration of disproportionate?" He said, "No, I have none." And Rick, with all due respect, I've read the reporting on the meeting of these two groups, the Sanders. He is not embracing legalization of marijuana, and they're pissed about it because they're going to lose voters, and it's all going to go for naught. But if you can show me something that Joe Biden is, because of Bernie Sanders, embracing legalization of cannabis, I would love to see it. Show me a place that has reported that. I don't see it.
Legalization of cannabis isn't the only standard. We can reform drug laws. We can make cannabis better as we step towards legalization. But if that's your standard, that because he's not endorsing legalization, you're asking him to have a standard that no other presidents had, including Obama, including our current guy. So I think if you're asking him, you have to have a legalization pro stance, that may be asking too much of a presidential candidate in 2020.
Well,
I think there's other cannabis and not quite achieve pro legalization.
Well, I think that in today's day and age, there are candidates that in the Democratic Party that were supporting that may have been better choices. I think that there was, and that is something that was a mistake the first time around. It separated, didn't bring people out, and they're going to make the same mistake again. So I mean, at the end of the day, this is what I'm saying is a problem of the position that they're taking. The cannabis issue, while it's one of many issues, is a big enough issue. How do I know that? Dana Nessel won on it. Dana Nessel won on it alone. She was nobody out of nowhere that embraced cannabis legalization, and she won. What do you know? It can actually turn the tide of things. And this person doesn't have the mental capacity to realize that and embrace that. That's my concern. You know, if you want to win that bet and save the country, then reform your policies. Realize, see the data. It's been represented state after state after state after state, and he still is hunkered down in the crime bill, which, for all purposes, then and defending it now and seeing the damage that's been done to humans and the disproportionality, it's a racist law that he's responsible for.
I've already said Biden sucks. We already know that.
All right,
You're throwing a lot of shade. That shade doesn't need to be thrown. But the fact is, Biden sucks. But he's the only guy out there to defeat Trump. And you can have all the outrage you want. Doesn't change any of that stuff. That's why Jamie and I are involved in the Cannabis Caucus of the Michigan Democratic Party, so we can make change about stuff like this from the inside out, because that's the most effective way to do it.
I'm not campaigning for Biden either. I'm not placing.
Nope, I'm not having a bumper sticker. I'm not putting a sign in my yard. I will hold my nose and vote for him, like I said 20 minutes ago before he started yelling at me, right? I'll hold my nose and vote for him.
I wasn't yelling.
Yes, you were, Michael. Look at the video playback. You were raised up out of your seat, buddy. Come on now.
The Planet Green Trees Show.